And welcome to our very own ZeroParty data party. It's the acquisition enrichment week, and we have just had a really great session with Fatima Katiblou, all around kind of balancing the privacy and personalization paradox. If you haven't checked that one out, make sure you go onto the hub and actually watch that session, because it's a great way of teeing up the session we have right now, which is Stephanie Liu from Forrester, who is going to really dig in to give you an illustrated guide to collecting zero-party data. So that's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that. But before we jump into Steph's session, Tim, what else have we got coming this week?
Well, you know me, and I'm a hands-on guy, so I love trying to figure out how to collect and how to use this zero-party data. So today, in this session, we're about to throw to Stephanie, who's waiting. We're going to show you at the end a bunch of examples of how to actually collect this. Things that are actually in market, Richard, from brands like Aeropostale. I've got Bowtech, which also, by the way, if you're a marketer watching right now and kind of new to zero-party data, even just getting started, do not miss tomorrow's session. It's Wednesday with Jeff Suter. He will show you exactly how they collect zero-party data at scale and how they use that to get over a 6 to 7 times lift in paid advertising engagement by taking their own zero-party data back to the walled gardens like Facebook, Google, etc. And also he'll show you how, because they had a zero-party data strategy, they were able to actually drive $250,000 of revenue from one single email campaign in the throes of COVID when their brick and mortar dealerships were closed. It's an amazing story. So register for that one tomorrow, and you'll hear it straight from a marketer like yourself.
And if you really want to know why zero-party data is so important, which, as I said, make sure you check out Fatima's session, where she's really going to tell you more about why this tsunami around privacy means that marketers need zero-party data for personalization. But to get to the point in hand, let's hand over to Steph and dig into how you can actually start collecting zero-party data. Over to you, Steph.
Signals 20, the content series for marketing rock stars.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Liu and I'm an analyst at Forrester Research. And I'm here today to talk to you about how to ask your customers to share more data about themselves using loyalty programs and website experiences. So first, we call this zero-party data because it's data that customers are willingly sharing with you. They are volunteering more information about themselves. So at Forrester, we specifically break it out from first-party data because first-party data is data that you have to share as part of a transaction, such as verifying your age if you're going to an alcohol or tobacco website, supplying your mailing address, your billing zip code, etc. Zero-party data is unique because this is data that a customer doesn't have to share with you as part of doing business. Instead, it's usually based on an existing relationship where a customer has decided that they're interested in your brand and they want to engage with you. So they'll share more information about things like their preferences, their context, respond to those feedback surveys, things like that. Now, zero-party data is important because our Forrester Technographics data shows that customers want relevance. Among US online adults, 39% say they're more likely to purchase from brands that share content that interests them. And they'll join loyalty programs to get this relevance. So 45% say getting those messages, offers, and promotions that are relevant are a key reason they join loyalty programs. But the way brands are going about trying to define relevance and deliver on it is missing the mark today. So only 19% of the same customer base says that the information companies are collecting on them is making their online experiences better. So there's clearly a gap here, right? Customers want relevance. The way brands are trying to get there is not quite meeting their expectations. And it's a very similar story among our European survey respondents, give or take 2 percentage points. So this is where zero-party data can help bridge the gap, right? Instead of trying to make assumptions or inferences on what is relevant to a customer, you can ask them up front, how do you want us to communicate with you? What do you want us to communicate with you about? So preference centers today are one of the most common mechanisms for collecting this zero-party data. For example, if you're a Home Depot customer and you create an online account, this is what the preference center looks like. So the first question it asks is if you're interested in home improvement, gardening, or if you're a professional contractor. And what I like about this is these 3 roll-up categories already help Home Depot understand what you're interested in and how to communicate with you. If you think about how many different types of products and how many individual products Home Depot sells, it can be very difficult to determine what someone's actual interests are, right? There was a tweet that went viral a couple of years ago, and it was an open letter to Amazon. And it was this woman who was complaining that no matter how many times Amazon tried to recommend her additional toilet seats, she was not a toilet seat aficionado. She just needed to purchase one because her seat broke. And this isn't going to be a recurring purchase. She doesn't need to be remarketed. And Home Depot can have a similar situation, right? Many purchases are driven by one-off needs. So this is a good way for it to determine, to ask basically, what are you interested in versus what are your needs-based purchases that we can track using our POS system. And it also lets you get more granular. So in this screenshot, we've selected gardening as our interest. Then you can volunteer your skill level if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And you can even get into what kind of gardener you are. If you're a professional landscaper, or if you're gardening, doing container gardens, or if it's food or flowers. And then from there, you pick your communications preferences and the newsletters you'd like to receive. So it gets a lot done, and it's in a pretty user-friendly way. Another example is Kellogg's. So they're collecting zero-party data as part of their loyalty program. And you can see here they've got a snack personality quiz, and in exchange for taking the quiz, you get 500 Kellogg's Family Rewards bonus points. So the quiz is asking basically what your snacking preferences are, and then giving you a little personality profile. So I like, I think I said I like salty snacks. Savory chips is my thing. So I got labeled as a chipper charmer. And there's some product recommendations here too, right? If you like this product, you might also like these products within the Kellogg's family. It's also collecting information that, again, it can't infer from your shopping behavior alone, and it cannot buy from a data broker. Things like your snacking habits, how often you snack, if you're a snacker throughout the day, or if you're just an afternoon snacker, how many kids you're feeding at home, if they're also snacking alongside you, and of course your preferences if you're a crispy, crunchy person, a soft snack person, sweet or savory. And it can use these not only for that product recommendation aspect, but also to do some market research on what kinds of products the customers are interested in. Now, Stitch Fix is a direct-to-consumer subscription box, basically shipping you personalized clothing every month. And its customer onboarding experience is basically an incredibly long preference center. My colleague went through this sign-up experience, and he said it was similar to, it felt like he was signing up for a dating website because it was asking that many personal questions. But it's important, right? And you know as the customer that the more you tell Stitch Fix about yourself, the more likely you are to get clothes that you like. So you can see here it's asking about your lifestyle, how much effort you put into getting the right outfit. If you need business casual clothing, or if you're more, if you dress more leisurely. Of course, the price points you're comfortable with for different items, if there are any items you absolutely hate, like dresses, etc. And it basically breaks down all of these questions into 5 categories on the bottom here. So there's size, fit, style, price, and more about you, which is those lifestyle type questions. Rent the Runway is a similar, it's a clothing rental company. And what I like here is after you create an account, you have the opportunity to fill out your preference center, and you can volunteer information about your size. So your height, your weight, obviously your clothing size, and your body shape. What I like here is it takes those inputs and it will tailor the web experience. So you're getting clothing that's relevant to you. It's available in your size. And reviews are a huge part of the Runway's business. The user base here is pretty dedicated. They upload photos of themselves wearing the article of clothing. They leave pretty detailed reviews. So you can refine those reviews to women like me, which means women who are either approximately my body size or my body shape or both. Sephora also has a preference center tied to its loyalty program. And what I like about theirs is it's an omni-channel experience. So of course, they've got the in-app preferences where it asks for everything you would expect a beauty retailer to ask, right? Your skin tone, your skin type, if you have any skincare concerns, your hair color, your eye color, and so on. What makes it interesting is it also has in-store preferences. So they have these kiosks called Color IQ, which basically takes a photo of your skin and matches it to a color identifier. Think of it like a Pantone color, but for your skin tone. So you complete that experience in store at a kiosk, and then you can input your color IQ into your preference center, so you don't have to worry about remembering it. And the next time you go online to buy foundation, it will tell you which shade is most likely to match your skin based on your color IQ. And this is a great experience, especially now when stores are closed, or trying those testers just seems like something not many people would be comfortable with. So using that color IQ can remove a lot of the uncertainty of having to buy a new foundation. And this isn't just a gimmick, right? It's actively changing how Sephora communicates to you. So this recommended just for you screenshot here is from the footer of an email. And you can see it's got 3 product recommendations, and it calls out why it's recommended. So for your green eyes only, here's an eyeshadow, a foundation for your light complexion, or a serum for your oily skin. It's also collecting preferences in its chatbot. So if you are using the chatbot for product recommendations, it will get pretty granular. The example here is about lipstick, right? And what you're looking for in a lipstick, what your key priorities are. Is it moisturizing? Do you need hyperpigmentation? Do you need it to not smudge, etc.? Yelp is one of my favorite preference centers because I think it shows that they really thought about the customer experience and how customers use Yelp. So Yelp, of course, can make some assumptions on the kinds of food you like based on your restaurant search and your review history. So in the preference center, it asks specifically about things it can't necessarily infer from your past behaviors. Things like if you've got dietary restrictions, if family-friendly or kid-friendly restaurants is important to you, if you need gender-neutral bathrooms or handicap accessibility. Now, where it gets really clever is Yelp understands that your needs when you're dining out will change depending on who you're with, right? You don't always need a kid-friendly restaurant. Maybe you've got a sitter and you can have a romantic date night out with your partner. So instead of using these preferences as hard filters, what it does is in the search results, it will tell you which of your filters each restaurant meets. So in the screenshot here, the first restaurant has many pescatarian options. The second restaurant has pescatarian options and is kid-friendly. So I can decide which restaurant is a better fit for me based on who I'm with for that meal. And sometimes capturing zero-party data is as easy as a yes-no question. The screenshot on the top here is from OpenTable, who asked my colleague Fatima, do you usually dine out in San Francisco after she'd made a reservation? What I like here is, again, it's not making assumptions, right? People travel. Sometimes you have a meal and, because you're making a reservation as a favor to someone that you're meeting for an out-of-town trip. It doesn't need to assume that you are always dining out in that city. It can just ask you point blank. If you hit yes, your home base is San Francisco, it will default your search to San Francisco the next time you log in, and it will only send you San Francisco-based restaurants in its communications. The second screenshot here is from the New York Times, and it just says, would you like recommendations for more stories like this? I believe I was reading something political when I saw this, so it would theoretically tag me as, okay, she's interested in US national news and she's interested in US politics. Again, very simple. I just hit yes, and it will tailor the kinds of stories that the New York Times recommends to me. So those are all examples tied to account pages and loyalty programs. But we're starting to see an uptick in this newer trend where brands ask for information on their websites, so in front of a login wall. For example, if you go to Gillette Mexico's website, they have this shave assessor. And again, you don't have to log in to access it. It's pretty accessible. And it's basically a product recommendation engine. So it's going to ask you, of course, what kind of beard do you have? How frequently do you shave? It also dug into the type of razor you like, if you're a single double blade guy or if you like an electric razor. What else was in there? If you shave in the shower or before or after the shower, things like that. And at the end, it says, before receiving the results of your assessment, would you like to receive tips and tricks from shaving experts? Give us your email address. Now, this is totally optional. So it says, if you don't want to subscribe, just hit enter to view the recommendations. So I like that it's optional, right? It's up to the customer if they've decided that this is valuable. I spoke to the vendor who built this experience for Gillette, and they said the client was happy with it because it can be really hard to get men to talk about their shaving habits. But this quick visual quiz, made it easier to learn a little bit about how their customers are using their products, and again, get some of that market research aspect in as well. The Bump is an online community for either expecting mothers or new mothers. So when you go to the homepage, it asks, right, how do we segment you? Are you trying to get pregnant, you are pregnant, or you're a parent? And just with those 3 high-level categories, similar to the Home Depot, it can understand the best way to communicate with you and to make sure it's sending content that interests you. So once you make your selection and you sign up for the newsletter, it will tweak the emails you get. Mecca Australia is a beauty retailer based in Australia, and they built this product recommendation engine built around Mother's Day. So it's a Mother's Day gift finder. And of course, you tell it a little bit about who you're shopping for, what your budget is, and it will spit out, some ideas for a gift. But where this is really clever is the second question. Tell us, what kind of beauty shopper are you? And the answers range from, I know next to nothing about beauty, please help me, to I love beauty, but I'm usually shopping for myself. And with that question, it can drive customer segmentation and tweak the onboarding experience for new customers. So if you know next to nothing about beauty, right, you probably don't need to be alerted about every new product launch or in-store or virtual event. You just need that annual reminder that Mother's Day is coming up and it's time to visit Mecca to find a gift. On the flip side, if you volunteer that you're a beauty guru, then you can get much more frequent emails, much more detailed emails about new products, new brands, etc. Marriott Hawaii uses ZeroParty data to inspire vacation planners. So if you think about vacation planning pre-COVID-19, it tends to be a higher consideration decision and lots of research involved. So what Marriott Hawaii did was they built this, again, very graphic-based quiz, basically to recommend which Marriott property you should stay at. So it's got, it's very Hawaiian. Which LA would you like to be welcomed with? It also asks what your favorite tropical cocktail is. But the third question here, who are you traveling with, right? This is basically Marriott asking, how should we continue to market to you? Do you want to see content about romantic getaways and spa options? Are you looking for family-friendly activities? Or is this a trip with friends? And based on that, right, it will tweak the kinds of activities and imagery that it puts in its communications. Aeropostale built a jeans fit finder. Again, it's basically a product recommendation engine. So it's going to ask about your preferences for fit, wash, cut, etc. And at the end, it says, do you want to save your preferences? You have the option of inputting your email address, and this will tailor the communications that Aeropostale sends to you. I'm also starting to see market research use cases, which is interesting. So this is an example from North Carolina Education Lottery, who built a customer feedback community. And it's a lottery company, right? So they want to make sure that their prizes are still interesting to customers, that it's selling lottery tickets in the right locations. So it's got questions about your preferred grocery stores. And finally, some other North Carolina brands that you're interested in, which can drive, consideration for future prizes or partnerships or co-branded options. So overall, when it comes to these zero-party data experiences, I like to use the analogy of a first date. You don't roll into a first date with 50 questions that you need to know off the bat, right? That's called an interrogation. Instead, you ask a couple questions and you share something about yourself, right? You get that conversation rolling, and it should be a bi-directional conversation. And if you're doing well, you earn that second date. I think too often we have experiences that are much closer to interrogations than conversations, which is why I think this analogy is a really good one to keep in mind. So when it comes to building zero-party data experiences, I've got 3 tips for you. The first is to fold zero-party data into your broader data strategy. Please don't collect this in a silo. Once you do that, you run the risk of creating really disjointed conversations, right? Again, think of this as a human-to-human interaction. If I tell you something about myself, I'm expecting you to remember that because that's how conversation works, not to ask me the same exact question the next day. The second is to deliver a clear value exchange for customers' data. Remember, all of this data is voluntary. These customers have chosen to trust you and engage with you, so there should be something in it for them. Thinking back to that Stitch Fix example, right? I mentioned it's a lot of questions, it gets very personal. But the whole point is, at the end of this lengthy onboarding experience, you're going to get a better box, right? A better set of clothing that you're more likely to want and to like. Similarly, don't ask for data you can't act on. This isn't a fishing expedition. It really should be pointed questions that you can immediately start to deliver some sort of personalization or value exchange based off of. I advise brands to usually cap these experiences at 4 questions. 5 is starting to push it. And again, it should be short, it should be simple, unless it's a really clear exchange like the Stitch Fix example. And finally, set a refresh cadence. So 4 is really good at this. It knows that your skincare concerns will change as you age or with the seasons. I live in Boston, so we've got really humid summers, really dry winters, and skincare routines will change seasonally to reflect that. So it will send you periodic reminders to say, here's what you've told us. Is this still accurate, or do you want to update it? This also works well for seasonal retailers. Like, we've pegged you as a baseball enthusiast because you've bought a lot of baseball gear. But what are you thinking for what's your fall sport? Are you into basketball, or are you prepping for hockey season? And that is the end of my presentation. So thank you again for having me here. And with that, I will hand it back to the Cheetah team.
Signals 20, the content series for marketing rock stars.
You can go back and market in a meaningful way at the first touch, right? So maybe their postal aligns with your brick and mortar or your key retailers that have your products, where you can do regional sales or things from the Northeast to the Northwest, whatever it might be. Just get that. But know this, if as soon as they enter, you have an email waiting in the wings to literally hit their inbox within a minute or two of them entering this data, whether it was a sweepstakes or a form or a post-sale survey, you get nearly a 60 to 70% open rate on that email. I mean, it holds true. I don't care your industry. I don't care what you're kind of asking. So get the barrier, very low, get some info, but have a second experience. We'll call them experiences, Richard. Have a second ask in that email, and you'll be blown away. You'll get nearly 50% of those people to come back and build out their profile, however you want to stage it. Maybe it's a sweepstakes or hey, thanks for being on our list or giving us the data you just gave us. Hey, if you want to fill out your full profile, here's 20% off or an instant win or something like that. So the stats are in your favor. Get a little bit to identify the person, but have a triggered message, email, SMS, or in-app message that asks them for more, and you'll get a high percentage will convert.
Now, the other vector that actually influences this particular question is also the type of value exchange and how big a value exchange that is. So, whilst everything you're saying is completely correct, there are some notable variances from this rule, and take something like Discovery Communications' Great Home Giveaway, where they literally give away a home.
Yeah.
They'll ask 25, 30 questions right up front as your kind of first entry into this experience.
Well, if I'm winning a new home, I'll sit there for 3 minutes and answer 30 questions.
Exactly. So the value exchange has some impact, but the rule is fair.
Yeah, and it's interesting that what I was mentioning are basically engagements. If you just made a purchase, when you say thanks, it's being shipped, or before we send you the shipping tracking, you can engage with them, right? So, hey, get in to win or get 20% off your next one, answer these quick questions. So there's really simple ways, but keep that engagement going and think about how to link them together so that you're constantly engaging to profile that.
The other thing is some of the experiences that Steph showed, and many that if you go onto cheetahdigital.com on our resources page, you can download our ZeroParty data playbook, which has a whole ton of different experiences. Yeah. Some of those experiences, whilst the form may only be 3 or 4 things, name, address, email, the actual experience itself could be something like a category quiz where you're selecting answers and interactions. And basically that is building out your profile as well. So, sometimes people don't even necessarily know how much of data they're giving to you because the experience is so great. Well, they're giving you a great window into their motivations and desires.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, can you take my screen on my laptop here? I want to show that example that Stephanie mentioned, the Aeropostale, which is live. And, Aeropostale, a giant clothing brand. Been around forever, even when I was in high school. They are taking this data collection very seriously. And Richard, to your point, it's not so much a clinical survey like your doctor would, but more or less, let's find your fit. So it's an actual experience tool that's helping them find the products that they need. And it's right on the homepage. So talk about, making it, taking it seriously. So here's an example. And sorry, my screen is a little big for your viewing. This is optimized for mobile and desktop. But who do you shop for? Well, I'm a dad. Maybe I'm shopping for both my son and daughter. Are you more likely to shop sustainable with us? But I'll go in and I'll say, all right, yeah, Tim at Cheetah Digital, cool, keep me informed. And then boom, they've got me. So everything I just told them, everything.
VP and Principal Analyst at Forrester that we had earlier today that you can watch on demand at cheetahdigital.com/signals, where we really look at how marketers can balance privacy and personalization, right? There's a bit of competing forces there. There's a paradox. How do marketers actually walk that fine line? And the reality is it's zero-party data that helps you walk that fine line, because this is data that is willingly shared to you by the consumer. They are telling you about their interests, their motivations, their desires, their preferences, in order for you as the marketer, as the brand, to better personalize your products, your services, and your customer experience and your marketing to them, right? So this is the fair transaction between consumer and brand to drive personalization. And zero-party data is right at the heart of it, as is making sure that you as a brand pull all of the first-party data that you have around consumers as they're interacting with you through all your various different channels, POS systems, websites, email, etc., and then augmenting it with the zero-party data where you've actually asked the consumer for their preferences and desires. And the reality is, as this privacy tsunami continues to carry on with the browsers and big tech responding to privacy, making changes to their operating systems, reducing support for things like third-party data, tracking cookie, third-party tracking cookies, third-party data, etc. Oracle completely canned its third-party data services and is trying to buy TikTok, as we covered on the session with Fatima, in order to buy their own first-party data. As a marketer, you can't just sit there and be, at the whims of the walled gardens that are getting incredibly entrenched with the way they protect the data they have. You've got to take your own future into your own hands and start building out your own consumer data around your customers, understanding their preferences, their desires, so you can market to them as individuals. So the only thing that's going to happen is that you are going to become more reliant on zero-party data as privacy changes move. And I have to say, if you haven't already started on this journey of really building out your direct-to-consumer marketing database, understanding people's preferences, motivations, and desires, you've got to play catch-up quick. Yeah. Because the clock is ticking on things like the support of third-party tracking cookies. Consumer attitudes, as we've seen for our own research from e-consultancy, are turning against marketers. In the US, 40% of consumers don't like personalized ads from brands that they don't have a relationship with on things like Facebook. Yeah. I mean, you've got to see the writing on the wall here.
Well, and I'll sum up that in a different, same mentality, different point of view. My last employer, a giant multi-billion-dollar holding company, I had to go to the board and say, do you want me to spend all of your marketing dollars on Facebook, Google, Amazon, like all of our competitors do? No differentiation. Maybe I have better creative or a better product.
Bidding for the same slots.
Bidding for the same consumers. Yeah. Or would you like me to use that money to advertise and market, but also to get an individual contract with every single consumer I can touch? So now we have a contract, we have an IP address, we have an opt-in, we have a timestamp. We know exactly when they explicitly declared that zero-party data to the brand, and we owned it. I'm no longer beholden to Facebook for third-party data. So it was very easy for me to go to, people who didn't understand that, the board though, and to my employers and say, this is a safer bet. This is an insurance policy on our advertising and marketing. We're going to build up this database of zero-party data, and we have an explicit declared agreement with every single consumer. And that was it. They said, all in. And you'll learn more about that tomorrow in the Botech session. You should absolutely join that and hear this, not from two technology guys, but from an actual marketer at a brand tomorrow, Wednesday.
So another great question here, which is how can these, data collecting experiences, right, that collect this zero-party data, how can they support longer-term engagement with customers? And that's a great question, because some people, when they think about zero-party data, can think, oh, well, this is the thing to collect marketing opt-ins, right, and build the database. And of course, it's so much more than that to get you closer to customers across the customer lifecycle. Maybe you want to take that.
Yeah, I'll go back to another employer where they said, Tim, if you get us as close to the customer as possible, that's a win, right? We'll worry about revenue and everything later. And we collected over 200 different potential profile data points. What's your favorite color? What's your size? When are you going to buy? Why are you going to buy? Where are you going to buy? Online or in your local, establishment? So collecting that psychographic information that you can't deduce from behavior, from web traffic, from clicking an ad. I don't even care if it's a female ad or a male ad. That's all nice to have, but everybody can get that. So that psychographic data is what you need on the long term. And Richard, I've kind of learned to use your analogies. If I say, hey, do you love pasta? I want to come over for dinner. And all of a sudden you say, no, I hate pasta. I'm gluten intolerant or something. And you come over and I have pasta. Well, that's a bad experience for you, right? So over the long term, as we know people as individuals, you meet new people, workmates, colleagues, whatever it might be, you want to learn more about them over time. The exact same principles of human interaction apply here. So the long term is the goal. You want to be collecting more data points, psychographic data points that uniquely identify them like a fingerprint. So the long term is the big play here.
And we've got time for another question, maybe another two. So I've got one here, which is saying, what is the best channel to get in experiences in front of people to acquire users and collect zero-party data? That's an interesting question. Maybe I'll comment here a little bit. So the first off is there really isn't a best channel, right, that's ubiquitous across all businesses, because it depends on that business. It depends on the audience that you want to go and actually collect zero-party data from, and obviously that audience, it depends on where they inhabit. The great thing that when you think about zero-party data and collecting this through experiences, this data, is you almost want to be abstracted from the channel where the consumers live. Now, one of the ways that people typically in the past have collected zero-party data is by having a preference center on their website, right? And that has some problems because, how many people come to your website, and when they do and they fill in the preference center, what's the reason for them to come back than actually tell you more about themselves?
And really, let's be honest, who's actually using a preference center anymore? Come on.
I mean, the reality is the volumes of zero-party data collection through preference centers are really next to nothing in the grand scheme of things. Now, we collect well over 750 million conversions through experiences where they might have 5, 10, 15, 20 questions as part of the flow every single year. So that's 750 million people into these experiences across 150 clients or so that use Cheetah experiences today. That should give you some view of the type of volume. But the reality is these experiences can live on any digital channel. So you may have experiences that are, oh, hang on a minute, perhaps I've gone and signed up an Instagram influencer, right? And they've got a great young audience that is interested in X that I, as a brand, as a marketer, want to go and get closer to. I want to get closer to their audience. So for that example, I may create a Cheetah experience, which allows me to post it along with the Instagram story that the social media influencer publishes, with a swipe up, with a chance to get a discount, perhaps unlock some VIP content, whatever it may be, which is the value exchange. But actually, you're doing it in that Instagram story. So all of those social media influencers are going to end up converting into your database, right? That's just one example. But then again, you might also want to create an experience which is really targeted to your VIP customers, your long-term brand advocates, that actually helps get their opinion, for example, on some new product that you're thinking about building. So you can create these experiences for many different audiences at different parts of the customer life cycle and actually publish them on different channels. On social, into your mobile app, through your loyalty program, publishing via email, on your website. There's many different ways you can actually reach different audiences to collect this data.
I'll go beyond that, because there's a lot of marketers probably saying, well, I still have a print budget. I still have events. I still have different things that are physical, not just digital. I have yet to find a marketing channel that you cannot get an experience into, meaning if you have print, great. Use an SMS keyword in that region. Give a value exchange, or get 20% off by texting XYZ to this and that. Have an event? Great. Have it up there. Have dealers. Are you a CPG brand where you sell your products on some other retailers? Co-op. The fastest selling kombucha company is gather that crucial zero-party data and offer up the value exchange.
Take someone like customer of ours like Shell Retail, that actually in many different markets around the world have QR codes that they distribute in their the gas stations, in the retail outlets, that actually try to get the footfall of people coming into that gas station, into that retail outlet, to actually convert into a known customer in their database with information that they ask them about their motivations, desires, interests. And they do things like have instant giveaways, instant wins if you spend over a certain amount of money in the station. And the QR code links you to the experience. They do the conversion there and then. And they've had some amazing results in terms of driving significant upsells because of this minimum purchase amount to enter, as well as collecting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people into their database with information about the type of shopper they are.
Well, it's really cool. And tomorrow, Bowtech will show you how they do this and reveal the numbers. But imagine if you could get 50% of your customers, your competitors' customers, into your database. So they're not even your customers yet. Bowtech, over 50% of the people that they engage with that are in their database are not even products owners yet. So that's the holy grail. When you have your competitors' customers in your database, whew.
So I know we're running out of time.
Cool.
We've got one last question that maybe we can just do quick 20 seconds on, which is, are there certain experiences that perform well compared to others?
I'm going to take this real quick. Watch and win. You invest in video and imagery for your products and services, right? Everybody has video these days. It's everywhere, YouTube, etc. Imagine if you could get 100% viewability on that. So you went to your boss and said, hey, that investment we made in that product video or launch video, we got 100% viewability. Everyone who saw it to the end. Well, whether they buy or not, they're going to know exactly what your product, service, and features are. It's called the Watch and Win. It's an amazing experience that literally you get people to. They watch your product video, and instantly when it's over, it turns into a form where you collect whatever survey questions, polls, and their zero-party data. That one, hands down, is a no-brainer in my book.
Yeah, and I'll quickly add to that to say, how you categorize performance depends on the audience that you're going after and actually what you actually want to get back. And so we do have customers, for example, that are actually going for, look, I just need to build that database. I've got no direct connection to consumers. Help me get as large a database as quickly as possible so that I can start to market to people directly, right? All sorts of different experiences with nice value exchanges, pushed out on paid media channels, as well as embedding it into website or their physical retail outlets. Think about the ABCD. Always be collecting data, right? It's getting these experiences out across all your channels that helps you do that. But then other customers may be doing stuff that is for very small groups of their customers where they want to get additional insight on. So the value isn't in the volume of people coming through the experience, it's in the richness of the data collection. Companies like Vodafone will put these experiences into their mobile apps that people use, in Vodafone's case, to check their bill, and they're really using it to get closer to their customers, and doing so with, in some cases, over 1 million entries because they have quite high volumes of people in these in their apps. So many different ways you can use experiences. Come to cheetahdigital.com, the resources section, if you want to get the zero-party data playbook.
And I know we got to end this, but Matt, if you can share my screen for 1 second. This is great, how to collect it, why you're collecting zero-party data. The week of October 13th through the 15th is what do you actually do with that data? Right. So data-driven engagement, that is the track that is coming up next. Richard, I wish we could do more on the acquisition and enrichment of data. You and I could talk for days, but you're going to learn directly from Bloomin' Brands. You're going to learn from clients on how they're actually activating this data and how Cheetah experiences CES is actually powering those experiences for them. So again, we're just starting. We've got tons of content at Signals. Go check out the full agenda. Sign up for as many sessions as you like, and we'll be back. This has been fun.
It's been great.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Make the data actionable. Check out Data Driven Engagement Week as well. Thank you very much.